It's January 8th, 12 o'clock, and we're going to go and start with the Finance Committee of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board. We do have a quorum, so I'll call the meeting to order. Do we have any public comments?
No public comments.
No public comments. Okay, so then we'll go ahead and start with our items for presentation. First item, presentation, discussion of the Brownsville Public Utilities Board Financial Performance Report for the period ending November 30th, 2024.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, members of my bank, and the Chief Financial Officer. And I'll be presenting the performance report as of November 30th, 2024. So here we've got the executive summary, which focuses on 7 categories. Each category has its own gauge meter, red representing poor, yellow average, and green good. So on the flow of funds, PUB has generated $1.5 million to replenish the improvement fund year to date. And our debt service coverage is at 2.75 times, well above the 1.25 times minimum requirement. So we're doing good. On the fuel purchase and energy charge, the rate has continued to stay constant at 5.019 cents per 1,000 kWh. It's been constant since September of 2024. It has generated an over-recovery of $17.93 million, which will be used to offset some future market uncertainty. On the COB cash transfer, it did come in lower, just slightly lower than budgeted due to a decrease in adjusted gross revenue, but it's very minimal that we still consider ourselves to be in a good position here. Personal and non-personal expenses came in lower than budgeted, about $3.4 million. And this was primarily due to some vacancies, some timing issues, and again, as I mentioned last month, it's the accrual that was made for the fiscal year ending September 2024. So some of those expenses got shifted to last year. BPUB's average bill is lower than both the average MOU bill and the average IOU bill for the 1,000 kWh user. Based on the 5.019 cents per kW per 1,000 kWh, the average bill for the average 1,000 kWh residential user is at $111.26. So very competitive. The CIP spending, the progress as reported is a little deceiving. We are reporting that $4.3 million has been spent year to date, which represents 5.7% of the total $76.1 million approved plan. So that in itself isn't or doesn't report much progress, but we do have $31.8 million that has already been encumbered. We have an open PO against those projects, and that represents about 42% of the total spend plan. $7.7 million in these projects are already under design, and another $15.5 million in projects are under construction. An additional $4.5 million in projects are out for bids and will be issued a PO once awarded. So we are seeing some progress here. I was just talking to our maintenance and reliability engineering manager. He's been meeting consistently with our directors and managers on these particular projects. They do anticipate a big jump in expenditures next month in February, so we should start seeing an uptick, especially since we're seeing a lot more progress in the AMI project. So we'll continue to monitor and continue to report back to the board on a monthly basis. All key financial metrics are currently in compliance. So here we have the condensed statement of revenues, expenses, and changes in net position. This is in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We report the current year to date in comparison to the same period last year. We've got operating revenues of $38,223,000. These were $1.8 million above last year's levels. We did see that base revenues decreased $1.8 million, but our fuel revenue and off-system energy sales increased $3.6 million. So that represents the 1.8 difference. Operating expenses were $30,158,000. Those came in at $1.2 million above last year's levels, and the majority of this increase was in contractual and other services. So we arrive at operating income of $8,065,000. We back out the net non-operating expenses of $3,849,000 and arrive at income before capital contributions of $4,200,000. $216,000. That $800,000 increase in the non-operating expenses represents really a decrease in revenue from recording the damages from the fiber network installation damages back in October of 2024. So continuing on, we add in capital contributions of $889,000, and we arrive at an increase in net position of $5,105,000. Adding this to the net position at the beginning of the fiscal year, we end up with a net position at the end of the period, year to date, of course, at $480,969,000. So here we've got a condensed summary of the revenues and expenses based on the flow of funds. This is in compliance and in accordance with the bond ordinance. We compare year-to-date actuals with the year-to-date budget. So we've got operating revenues at $37,200,000. Those came in $5 million under budget. Base revenues were under budget by $1.3 million, while the fuel and the off-system sales were under budget by $3.7 million. Next, we got operating revenues of $3,050,000. Those came in $816,000 under budget. The majority of that just represents the decreases in the auxiliary services generated in the ERCOT market. So we arrive at gross revenues of $40,250,000. We back out the fuel and SRWA contributions of $12,735,000, and we arrive at an adjusted gross revenues of $27,514,000. This is the basis for the city of Brownsville's 10% transfer calculation. The city is entitled to $2,751,000 off of that. Backing out the other requirements for O&M, non-operating revenues and expenses, and debt service of $18,860,000, and we arrive at a balance available after requirements of $8,654,000. Once we back out the full benefit, cash and utility benefit to the city of Brownsville of $2,751,000, we arrive at a balance available for transfers out or available for PUB uses of $5,902,000. That $5.9 million was used to fund $4,366,000 of our budgeted CIP, leaving a balance of $1,536,000 to replenish the improvement fund. And here again, the debt service coverage ratio year to date was at 2.75 times. There's a lot more information that's provided for your review, but this does conclude my financial report. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Hey, Mike, what was, on the previous slide, what was the capital contribution for that 800? What's that? Line 6?
Those are contributions from the developers
Okay.
on the subdivisions. Once the infrastructure gets placed in, those are contributed to PPP.
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are we doing compared to Magic Valley?
On the rate,
Yeah.
Magic Valley, it came in at 100.95, so $100.95 compared to 111.26 on our end.
Close.
So,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions? No? Okay, item number 2, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation on status of request for qualifications for financial advisor services.
Good afternoon. Monica Cavazos, Director of Finance. We have our financial advisory services. Our current contract is expiring soon. And so we went out in November for a request for qualifications for financial advisor. We released the RFQ, on November the 9th. The bids were opened on December the 5th. We advertised the proposal. We also sent it out to 10 different vendors. We only received one response back, which was surprising. The one response we received was from our existing financial advisor. They have been with us since 2003. And just a little bit of a history, the last time we went out for an RFQ was in 2019. At that time, we received 3 respondents. The board interviewed 2 firms and selected our current FA. The previous proposed request for qualifications was done in 2012. At that time, we received 6 respondents. And again, our current FA was selected then in 2012 and again in 2019 by the board. So we only received that one response. We're coming to you all to ask for your recommendation. Do you want us to proceed with continuing the engagement with our existing financial advisor? Do you want us to put that on the consent agenda for the board? Do you want to take the item to the full board and discuss it with them? Or do we want to look at an option to re-advertise and reach out again to the firms we already reached out to and to additional firms? We did have multiple firms that had expressed, when the initial RFQ went out, there were multiple firms that had expressed an interest in submitting a proposal. For whatever reason, they didn't come through. We've reached out to them again to find out what their reasons were. They had different, some just were not interested, some were interested but missed the deadlines and have expressed an interest in, if we reopen it, applying again or submitting a proposal. So we are looking for you all to make a recommendation to us to either proceed with re-engaging our existing financial advisor or discussing it with the full board.
Okay. Any comments?
Everybody had an opportunity to submit a
Yes.
proposal. I know they've been with us for quite a while. I don't have any problems with this firm. To delay it, I'm not sure it's going to be in our best interest either, but I don't have any problem with it.
How long, if we let everybody else kind of get a second chance at this, how long would this delay us, and what would the
It
implications
probably would
be?
take another 4 to 5 months for that full process to re-advertise it, receive proposals. We typically have it out for about a month to give them sufficient time to submit a proposal. Then the evaluation, bringing it back to the Finance Committee, back to the full board, probably 4 to 5 months. Their current contract expires at the end of February, so we would have to go on some kind of a extension with them in the short term until a decision would be made.
Okay, and so none of the people you reached out to said there was a breakdown in communication on our side. There were no issues
No,
from us. So
No.
then I think I agree with Art. We did our best.
Yeah. I agree too. I think you just put it as an agenda item for full board, review and approval.
okay. Do you want it to be on the consent agenda to proceed with the existing FA, or open it for discussion with the full board?
What he just mentioned is he wanted as an item that the entire board could
Yeah.
review it, discuss it,
Okay.
we'll vote for a vote.
So we'll put it on as a regular item, not a consent.
Yeah,
Not a consent,
action item.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you. We'll bring it back to the full board then.
Thank you, Monica.
But definitely include that information about
Yes.
the other people who expressed interest and didn't.
Okay.
Okay, item number 3, presentation discussion by external auditor Burt McCumber Longoria LLP on progress update on BPUB's fiscal year 2024 audit.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So here with us today is Jose Diaz, Audit Manager with Burton McCumber and Longoria, to provide the Finance Committee with a progress update on the BPUB's fiscal year 24 audit.
Good afternoon, Board. Thank you for having us. So I'm just going to provide an update. Like we stated last month, we left the field that we completed the majority of our audit procedures. So right now, we're still currently on track to finish and present by next board meeting. We're just pending the financial statements and one final adjustment. But it's still as it was scheduled, which, we're scheduled to get financials by next week, right? So the adjustment should be coming in also within the next few days. But nothing out of the ordinary, so,
Very good.
yeah.
Any questions?
Questions?
Any questions? No. Look forward to getting the report. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item number 4, consideration and possible approval to amend the AMI Badger Inc. contract for project services extension and CPI increase.
Chairman, members of the board. My name is Eddie Hernandez. I'm the Director of Enterprise Solutions. We're here today to submit a change order for Badger Water Systems. The change order provides pricing increases for 2025 and 2026. We placed the order in 2024. As per our contract, every year it goes up based on the CPI. Originally, the initial proposal increase was at 3.6%. We were able to negotiate it for 2025 to 2.9, and to 2026 for an additional 3%, or actual CPI, whichever is lower. The total impact to the project would be $419,577.53, which is budgeted, which would come out of our the AMI project contingency budget.
Just for the record, CPI, Consumer Price Index, right?
Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Consumer Price Index.
Would all this go away if we just said, let's buy them right now and not, realize these price
Well,
increases?
the 2025 increase, we're
Well,
in
we have the
2025, so
2025,
that
yeah,
wouldn't go away. What would go away would be the 2026 increase, and that only applies to the remaining product. We did take a quick look at that. The problem becomes warehousing it and actually being able to install it. The other issue, if I remember correctly, that popped up was the warranty. The warranty on because as soon as we take delivery, the warranty starts. And so, whereas if we do it as per the schedule, when we receive it, then the warranty starts, if that makes.
That's great to know, and have as backup documentation in the board folder. I would suggest having that as backup, like, hey, by the way, here's why we don't wait.
Okay.
Yeah, just to document it.
Any other questions?
I don't have any questions.
You know, Eddie, I remember this project when it developed. It was very clear that I was afraid that y'all were going to come back with some price increases. I understand that there's contingency budget and all that. I would ask you or Paul to reach out to take a look at our contract. And this is, they're getting paid $11 million. I don't see why they cannot work with us and absorb this. This is $400,000 that's coming out of our budget. I don't support it. Those are my concerns. I know y'all planned, and I understand that the price index and all that, but I really think y'all should reach out to the company and see if they can absorb this price increase. This is a significant contract for them.
Yeah, just for reference, it is part of the contract that was reviewed and signed. It's standard procedure for this type of a contract.
I get all that, Eddie.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, it's just discussion and negotiation. I mean, this price increase, for them, it's easy. Here, it's a price increase, $400,000. For us, we have to pay for it. It's an $11 million contract. But those are my thoughts. Those are my comments.
Understood.
Yeah, I guess, Eddie, initially they proposed a 3.6. Was the 3.6 the actual CPI?
I'm sorry?
Initially here, they had proposed an increase of 3.6, and it sounds like you went from 3.6 to 2.9. Did you negotiate the 2.9?
Yes.
So you negotiated it down from what they were initially at?
Right. Initially, they came in with 3.6% for each year, and we went back to our finance department and asked them, just out of curiosity, what do we think CPI is? Because people can use different numbers, and we came up with 3%. Was the suggestion? So basically, we pushed that forward and said, no, we think 2.9 or 3% is reasonable. That's what we're showing CPI is.
Yeah. And then they have or actual CPI, so if CPI is actually higher than, let's say, the 3% in 2026, do you actually go higher, let's say if CPI is 4%?
It's capped at 3%.
Okay, so it's a cap.
If it's lower, we get the lower.
You get the lower amount. Yeah, I hope it's lower, but I doubt it. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I guess I would also, this item I'd recommend, because it's $420,000 to bring it to the board. And because I know that you have some concerns and
I
want a
do.
report back.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And next, we have a closed meeting item, closed meeting to consider matters pursuant to Texas Government Code Chapter 551. And there is one item, presentation, discussion, and possible recommendation for information upon pricing of purchased power generation and fuel and their impact on the fuel purchase, energy, and marketing charge. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We'll be right back.
Because, I'm sorry about French. It's not that really big a week.
Now,
Nothing right now? Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll
there-
second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Time is 12:33.